Good morning. Thank you for joining VirtualPBX dash admin training. What you should be seeing on your screen is the dash login page. And let me get this. And that's simply at dash.virtualpbx.com. The username is typically your email address. The main thing to be aware of is sometimes your browser may capitalize your first letter of your name, and by default dash has everything lowercase. Password, we actually won't know your password, but that should be something that's created either automatically for you or as an admin. Or admin would create that for you. And then your account name is normally your company name. If you ever forget, you can just click forgot your info link. But beyond that, you can just go ahead and sign in. And then we're taken to your dashboard. Now, if you just signed up, your first time logging in, Dash will take you through the startup wizard, which gives you an overview of some things. But once you close out of that, this is where you'll end up. A couple things you'd be aware of up here. And you have your name, where you can click on to get to your account information. You can close. The web phone, that's a Dash-only VoIP device, which you have to set up on your user first before it'll show up here. The store goes to the store page of virtualpbx.com. This will take you to the support site. This little 3 horizontal line icon here, that's the hamburger menu or the main menu. So we're on the dashboard right now. Queues is if you make use of ACD queues. Blacklists lets you manage your blacklists, basically blocking phone numbers from reaching your system. As an admin, you can get to the fax manager, which means you can get to any fax box on the account. Monitor, I believe, we're not currently using. They're reworking it. Recordings takes you to the recording storage site, which is actually hosted by Amazon Web Services, and that uses the same login as your your Dash login. The user portal, this takes you to what your standard users or your non-admins see. Basically, they can check their voicemails here, their call history. They can also set up their own call forwarding here. Voicemails goes to the voicemail manager, and then webhooks, if you're making use of APIs, that's where you would manage the connection to Dash. All right, so total users, basically these are all the people on your account. They're making and receiving calls. You are paying for each user on the account. So each time you add a user, your bill's going to go up. As you remove users, your bill will go down. Total devices. This is them being broken down by type, so soft phone, basically an application on a computer or a smartphone, cell phone. And a SIP phone is a physical VoIP phone, and in this case, web phone, and you can have others broken down. Unregistered devices, this is going to be for the VoIP phone, web phone, or soft phone, basically saying the system says, hey, they're not connected, we're not going to be able to send calls to those devices. Over here to the top right, you have the main numbers. You can have multiple main numbers. These numbers will all behave the same way. So if you have a main greeting assigned to it, then they all play the same main greeting. They're all going to have the same initial routing. You have your fax box number, basically, so you can accept incoming faxes. You can also have a conference bridge number showing up here if you're making use of the conference bridge. Total numbers shows you all the numbers you have on your account. Assigned numbers means these are numbers you're using, meaning they go someplace, right? They're a main number. They go directly to a particular user, or they go to a ring group, etc. Whereas spare numbers means they're a number on your account, so you're being charged for them, but you're not using them, meaning they don't ring anywhere. It could be this, legacy number that you're just holding on to, and then you're going to make use of later. It could be a number that you're going to use for a future advertising campaign, what have you. Then we have a breakdown between, in this case, U.S. DID, meaning U.S. local numbers, and then U.S. toll-free numbers. You can also have international numbers listed. Down below that, we've got the company directory and a download link. And so you notice that this only has 11, but I have 21 users. That means as an admin, I had 10 users. I decided not to show up in the user directory. I can change that at any time. The account ID, this alphanumeric string, this is technically your account number. So you could rattle this off to us, and we could find your account this way. But typically, if you're calling into support or billing, for example, we're going to ask you for your company name. The account realm, you use this for a couple things. If you're sending faxes out, we make use of email to fax. So from your email client, in the to field of the email, it'll be +1 area code and phone number, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you would attach a PDF or TIFF file and send that off. And the fax would go out. The other thing you would use it for would be to program a third-party device. So that would be like a VoIP phone that doesn't show up in our auto provisioner, or a soft phone application from, say, like Counterpath. And then lastly, we have a store discount code for just for being a Dash customer. You get a discount in the web store. Okay, back up towards the top, we got caller ID. This is your company caller ID, basically the default that the company you're going to use. You can choose from any of your main numbers. And then we've got the company caller ID name. This is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces or special characters. Once you click Save Changes, this gets sent out to the various carriers that support CNAME, and they update their servers. Now, this can take usually about 3 business days. Can take a little bit longer, but normally it's right around that 3 business day mark. There are a couple things to keep in mind about the CNAME feature. Not every carrier makes use of CNAME, so that means a call routes through one of those carriers, the CNAME information is not going to get through to your destination. Even for all the carriers who do support CNAME, it's their last priority, right? So if they have higher than expected call volume for whatever reasons, like election season's coming, there's some areas that are going to have very high call volume at different times of the day, right? In those kind of situations, again, the company name information is not going to go through, right? First priority for your telecom carriers, connect the call, right? Second priority is the caller ID information, and last and very much least is the CNAME information. Obviously, if they have a maintenance issue going on or an outage, that probably can have different things going on in that case. And then lastly, if you're calling someone who actually already has your phone number programmed into their device, their device's name for you will always take precedence over what we send. That's very rare. It doesn't come up very often. All right, then we have the company emergency or E911 address. This is basically when you pick up a VoIP phone, dial 911. This is the default address that is sent out to emergency services. So obviously, that you want to make sure this is correct. Also, if you have remote staff members, you can set up the E911 for each device. And then you would click on Save Changes. Next up, we've got hold music. This is the default hold music for Dash. You can upload your own file. Dash accepts both MP3 or .wav, .wav. You want to make sure you record in mono, not in stereo. And you're currently restricted to 1 megabyte file sizes. So a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes long. Something to keep in mind is this is hold music after your inbound caller has spoken to someone. So as long as they're dialing in, they'll hear ringing, they'll hear your greeting, they enter a menu option, or an extension number, they'll still hear ringing. When your staff member picks up, starts talking to them, and says, "Oh, let me put you on hold," and they press the hold button on their phone, this is the default music that's going to play. All right, you click an upload, you find the file on your computer, and then you click on the blue upload button here. Or you can choose from a file that you already uploaded to the account. Let's go into hours of operation, or business hours. Right, by default, new accounts, you start off as 24-hour open office, meaning you're open for business and your system's ready to take calls. For most people, they tend to want to switch it to custom office hours, and then each day of the week, you put a check mark that you're open, and then you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. And then you would click on Save Changes. Office holidays, you can set your holidays in advance. First, you would put a check mark here to say if that you're closed for holidays, and then you would click Add Holiday, and you have an option here for single day, a date range, or advanced. All right, so single day would be like this one here, President's Day, chose February 20th. Click Save Changes. So that means when February 20th rolls around, the system automatically puts me in holiday mode. Now, because there's no year, you would have to change it for each year for President's Day. Now, downside is usually, right, or there comes a point for most holidays that they advance up the calendar. So President's Day was the 20th, the next year could be the 21st. Well, in the current year when it just happened on the 20th, I don't want to come back in and automatically put this as February 21st because then I'll be closed for a second day in a row. So you want to wait at least a couple days before you update an existing holiday. All right, date range would be like this for Christmas, right? December 22nd through to December 26th. So just close for those days automatically in holiday mode. I have a note here for beware New Year's Eve to New Year's Day. So because there's no year input here, for a date range that covers New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, you'd want to do those 2 days individually. So just do a single day for New Year's Eve, do a single day for New Year's Day, and then if you're closed either before that or after that, just do date ranges. And then advanced is you pick a day of the week of a particular week of the month, and then the month, right? So the second Monday of March, we're at the holiday, right? Company retreat. And again, click on Save Changes. And then we have the incoming call handling. So you have subtabs here. Open right now we have open hours, holidays. You can have your after hours tab here. You can also have lunch hours, which I don't know if I could go back to office hours. Yeah, right down here. If you put a check mark here, say you're closed for lunch, that would give you another tab under incoming call handling for lunch hours. In all these subtabs cases, though, you have these 3 options. So first option, call comes in and goes to your virtual receptionist. And you click on the virtual receptionist, it'll open up a new window. And this is where you handle your greeting and the menu options for your customers. So on the left-hand side, that's your main menu. This is where you create routes. Although we can't, this interface isn't quite working right. But basically, you would click Add a Route, and from the pull-down, you can select basically 0 through 9. That's what people press, and then you choose where they're going from this pull-down here. So I can send it to different groups. You can send it to an individual. This one's going to a ACD queue. This is going to directory. You can also send to a voicemail box. You can also send it to a particular greeting file, for example. and as well as to a specific device. Now the downside to sending it to like just a media file is that once that file stops playing, the call is ended. So it's the only reason I wouldn't recommend that. Over here on the right, you have your greeting options. So you've got text-to-speech. You simply type in a greeting that you want to play. You want it to play. You click Update, and it'll start playing. You can upload your own file. Again, .mp3, .wav. Make sure it's recorded in mono and less than 1 megabyte in size. You can choose from already uploaded greetings, and this is actually should show you the pull down. You can record it over the phone. Now, when it says pick up a registered phone on this account, that means a VoIP phone that's on the account. Basically, you would pick up, you would dial your number, and then enter the PIN number, and then record your greeting. Now, if you already have a greeting in place, let's say I had a text-to-speech greeting in place, when the main greeting starts playing, I can still enter the PIN number and then re-record over the phone. One thing to keep in mind is that this PIN number is tied to the sub-tab. So if I close this out real quick. So I'm in the open hours sub-tab. So as long as I'm open, then I can use that PIN. But for like the holiday, so like the holiday tab, sub-tab, would have a different PIN number. And if I want to record that greeting, I would have to put myself into holiday mode to record it over the phone. We also have professional recording services. We've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. They have something like 100 voice actors to choose from. They have various versions of English. They have a couple different versions of Spanish and French as well, so you can do multilingual greetings. They have packages where you could do customized hold music, where you have like hold music and then a script being read, and then back to music, etc. They handle their own pricing, their own billing, and then they email you the files when they're completed. And then you would just simply upload your own files. And then right here, we have the settings here. This is the number of retries on a misdial. Basically, how many times are you letting your customer mess up or hit the wrong menu option before you have either the default route go, which is what this one is here, or if you don't have a default route set, then it would end the call. The reason you would want to not have a default route and basically just say have this at 2 instead of 12, but basically your greeting plays twice, right? It gives your customer a couple times to what they're going to go to, and if they keep missing, right, then the call ends. So for a person, that might be a little frustrating, but hopefully after 2 or 3 times, they would hit the right menu option. But because robodialers are unfortunately a thing, robodialers can't press a menu option. So you would not want a default route. You'd have a number of misdials set, say 2 or 3. Right? The robodialer is listening to your greeting play to 2 or 3 times, but they can't press a menu option, so the call ends, so you don't get those random voicemail message of like a car in traffic or a music file or whatever. All right, this next option, call comes in, and you're having to go to a group, or a person in this case, or you can scroll down, you can go to ACD queue, you can have it go to a specific device, and, these are WAV files. Or a ring group, where basically it's give someone a chance to answer the call first. If they can't pick up, send it to the virtual receptionist. And then that call, your inbound caller can set a menu option choice. All right, third option, call comes in. Again, you can go to a user, to a group, etc. If they're not able to pick up, you can send it to a voicemail box. This one also has the option at the very bottom. It's just send it straight to voicemail. But whatever you do, make sure to save changes. You got your main fax box number here. You can unassign a number or reassign it. You can edit the fax box. Unfortunately, on this account, it is not working properly. However, but basically when you edit the fax box, you can choose who is getting the emails for those inbound faxes. Just put in the email address. You can also have an SMT permissions, where basically if your company has its own domain, so at VirtualPBX.com is our domain, you could add that into your SMT permissions box, and anyone with that domain can send a fax out. Even if they don't have a user on your Dash account, as long as they have your company email address, they can still send a fax. They just have to have the right format. All right, go over to numbers next. Numbers just basically shows your numbers on your account and where they're going. We have a couple here that are red. Basically, these were port requests that haven't completed. And then over here, you have spare numbers. Under spare numbers, this is where you can buy additional numbers. Like for a local number, we can do a search here. Let's go with 650. And then you would click Add to move the number over. And you can add multiple numbers at once. And you click on Buy Numbers, and the system is checking, making sure it's still available. Then it's activating it and adding it to your account. And there it is. It's a spare number. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you've just signed up and you didn't select a number when you first signed up, buying a number in a case where you have 0 numbers on the account already, we're not charging you for that. Your account already includes at least 1 phone number as part of your plan, and typically up to 3. Once you go over that, yes, you would be charged. It's default, it's $4.99 per number over your allocation per month. The only exception might be international number, because some of those have varying rates in terms of there's usually an acquisition cost, and then the monthly rate may differ as well. But that's if there is an acquisition cost or an abnormal acquisition cost, our porting team will let you know. And in general, for adding international numbers, you would just want to email porting at virtualpbx.com. Give them the city and country that you want the number in, and they'll see what's available. Just keep aware that some countries have higher requirements to gate numbers than others. Like Germany, for example, requires a proof of presence in that city that you're requesting the number in, i.e. a utility bill or some other. And some countries are very strict. They have but if there's any severe requirements, again, our porting team will let you know. Porting a number, it's just moving a number from another carrier to VirtualPBX. This will start the process. You can follow the on-screen instructions. The main thing is we need a filled out letter of agency, or LOA, which we have them on our website, so you can just download it. And there actually is a download link within the port process itself. And for a local number, so non-toll-free, we also need a copy of the bill. And then that will initiate the port request. Users, this is all your users on the account. You can add a user up here by clicking Add User. You enter their name, you enter their email address, you create a password for them. Now you notice here, it already gave me an extension number, 1018. That's the next available number in my extension series. Now I can change that. I can make it 2018. I can make it 3518. I can make it 3512, whatever I want. Here's the option to include in company directory. Even if you change your mind later, that's okay. You can adjust it later. But the most important one is this last one: send credentials to this user. Basically, when you hit create user, the system will automatically email the person, hey, here's your login information. One thing to keep in mind is the email address for each user must be unique. So if Bob and Mary share an email address, they can't have separate users with the same email address, right? So Bob can't have a user with support at virtualpbx.com, and Mary cannot have a user with support at virtualpbx.com. Now, you can do support one at VirtualPBX for one of them, and the system will still count that as a valid email address, even if it doesn't exist on your domain. All right, so if you click on the user's name, take a look here. can always change the name. You can change their credentials, their email or their passwords. The voicemail box PIN, right, 4-digit PIN code. Send to an alternate address. This is basically in addition to this address up here that you're sending to. And then here's the option to include in user directory or not. Over here on the right, it's a pull down. It's either you can make people a user or an admin. If they have the little blue suit up here, that means they're an admin. If they have just a gray person icon, then it's a user. If you just signed up, please do not change yourself to a user and then log out. That has happened occasionally, so leave yourself as an admin. Over here, we have the time zone, and then you can set it to whichever time zone you're in. Then you have your choice of language, which is English, French, or Russian, I believe it is. Over here, you have ringing timeout. Now, for me, it's grayed out because I have follow me enabled. But if you don't have follow me enabled, you can set it here to whatever you want. The default is 20 seconds. You can set it up or down. And then main extension, this is essentially your default extension for the user. If you click on the extensions box, you can add additional extensions to a user. Like for instance, a manager had some staff members leave and they want to make sure they're not missing voicemails. They could then take those extensions over, for example. Phone numbers, users can have a direct phone number. Basically, that number goes directly to them. It doesn't go through the virtual receptionist at all. Devices. So the devices on the users. Add from spare devices, devices that are already on the account. New devices. The SIP phone is a physical VoIP phone. So Gaylink, Polycom, etc. You can find, so if your manufacturer, your phone is here, you can click on it. Hopefully you can find the model of your phone. And then at the bottom, so you'd select the phone and then you'd enter in the name. And then the MAC address of the phone, which is on the back of most phones. Then you click on Create Device. Now, as far as Dash is concerned, once you've done that, you're done. However, you actually need to go into the phone's web user interface and change a couple of settings, which we have on our website. And that will cause the phone to reboot and then connect to us, and then the phone should be provisioned. Cell phone is pretty straightforward, so is landline. You give it a name, and then you put +1, area code, and number. And then you can click Create Device, and you're ready to go. You can look at the advanced options. So when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or a landline, we send the call, your phone rings, you pick up. You'll hear a message come on saying, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1." You press 1, the call is connected. Basically, that's telling the system you are really there to accept the call. Now, if you don't want to press 1, or, for instance, you're sending the call to an automated answering service, what you would want to do is put a check mark here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So what that does is it makes you don't have to press 1 to accept the call, and as soon as we hear that connection tone or that pickup tone, we connect the call. So when you're sending it to an automated answering service, it picks up, call gets through. Likewise, if you don't want to press 1, you pick up your cell phone and you start talking. Downside is if you're actually sending it to a cell phone or to a landline, the inbound caller can end up on your cell phone's voicemail box. Maybe that's great, maybe that's not. That's purely up to you. All right, keep a regional caller ID. What that means is what shows up on your cell phone will be the caller ID of the person who called. Now, if it's going to your cell phone and maybe you're having trouble deciphering if it's a personal call or a business call, you might want to uncheck this then. And so what that does is the VirtualPBX phone number they called, so your main number most likely, or your DID number, will show up as the caller ID on your cell phone. So that way you know, oh, this is a business call. And then hide from contact list so it doesn't show up in the user directory. Soft phone does count as a VoIP device. So the default that it comes up here like this is if you're going to use a third-party device. So say XLite from Counterpath is a soft phone application from someone else. In that instance, you would give it a name, and then you would use this information. So the SIP username, your SIP password, and then the realm to program that application to work with us. And then you click on Create Device, so it's added to the account. Now, if you want to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, what you would do instead is click down here. Right, so this little grayed out section here, change it to Use VirtualPBX Device, give it a name, click on Create Device. What it does then is the system sends you an email saying, hey, you have a soft phone, here's your login information. So then you can just download the app to your cell phone and start using it. If you want to use a desktop version of our app, there is a licensing fee. It's $39.99. So you'd want to go through the store and order it, and then they'll create it for you. Web phone. Pretty similar. You give it a device name, you click Create Device, and now you can make use of the web phone. Web phone is making use of a web browser to make and receive calls. I know for sure it works on Chrome and Firefox, although we just came out with a new version, so there might be other browsers. I just haven't tested it on them yet. You can transfer calls from the web phone. You can put people on hold. You can make calls out. It's just, again, using a web browser, usually on a computer. I haven't tested on my cell phone yet as well, but that should be a possibility. And then you would click on Create Device, and the web phone uses the same credentials as your Dash login. So your email address, your same password, and then your account name, excuse me. Landline is the same as cell phone, so no big worries there. All right, so next up we got user features. So caller ID number, this only works if they have a DID phone number, but basically you're saying if you turn it on, use my phone number that goes directly to me as my caller ID. So when I make an outbound call, the 702 number shows up as my caller ID. Now if I turn this off, it'd be one of my main numbers. Okay, call forwarding, this is for VoIP phone users. Basically, the idea being, if I turn it on, then I'm telling the system for calls that come to my user, send it to this phone number. All right. If I do it in failover mode, that means basically for whatever reasons my VoIP phones became unregistered, send calls that come to my user to this phone number. This is actually probably the more recommended way of doing it. The main thing is that this phone number should not be a device on your user. So like if this is my cell phone number, as long as I don't have it as a device on my user, I'm okay. If you do have it as a device on your user, the system doesn't know how to handle it, and you end up not getting the call at all. Hot desking is another VoIP device or VoIP feature. This is in an instance where you're in a shared office environment where your desk can change from day to day, meaning you're at a different phone. So today's Tuesday, I'm at phone number 32. Tomorrow, I'm at phone 7. I still want to get my calls. So what hot desking allows you to do is basically to log into that phone that you're sitting at. So you basically give yourself a hot desk ID. You can give yourself a PIN number. So you get to that phone that you're sitting at. You hit *11. That logs you in to hot desking. It asks you for your hot desk ID and then your PIN if you have that enabled. And then once you've logged in, call comes to your user, goes to that desk that you're sitting at. At the end of the day, you hit *12, I believe, is to log it out. So calls don't go to you, or calls that are going to you won't ring at that phone anymore. The next day, you're at desk 7, pick up phone 7, hit *11. Again, you're logging in. So that way you keep getting your calls. Every user is created automatically as a voicemail box, and it's automatically enabled. You do not want to delete the voicemail box of a user, if at all possible, because it's intrinsically tied to the user. Users can have their own fax boxes. If you're going to do so, we do recommend what you do is select a phone number. That way, when people fax to it, they just enter the phone number, hit fax start, and they walk away from the fax machine like most people are used to. If you choose an extension number, then they have to call your main number first, get to the greeting, hit the extension number, then hit fax start. That's not exactly normal for most people, so that's why I tend to recommend, if you're going to do it, use a new phone number. Follow me. This is if you have multiple devices, and you can set up how you want it to ring. You can change the order. You can click distribute. You can see here I have 120-second ring duration total over the devices. I can change that if I want. Say, well, this interface is not letting me change it right now. You can also adjust the sliders as necessary. So if you want, you could do something like that. So basically, both your phones are ringing until you pick up. Now, by default, when you go to follow me, the first, especially when you've just added a device, new devices show up as do not ring as checked. So you can uncheck it, and then you can adjust the sliders. Music on hold. Individual users can have their own on-hold music. If you enable it, you can upload again in .wave, .mp3, 1 megabyte. Make sure it's recorded in mono. And then customize call recording. So call recording for a user. These are your options. So inbound internal, that's a call coming to me from another user on the account. Right? Inbound external means call coming to me, but from someone outside the account, i.e. a customer. Right? Thus, outbound internal means I'm calling another user on the account, and outbound external means I'm calling a customer back. And again, you can set them all to on or all to off or any combination. All right, groups, also referred to as ring groups, basically the department. And create a group, give it a name, give it an extension number. The extension number so that way your staff members can transfer calls to that group if necessary. And then you would click and drag people to that group, and you would click on Create Group. If you click on the name of a group, you can always change it again to something else. The dialing repeats is how many times the inbound caller can try to reach everyone in that group. You get little arrow icons here to increase or decrease it as necessary. If you click on the members box, this shows you who's in the group, and this is how you have their calls going. Meaning, call comes in and it all rings them all at once. I can click distribute and just have it go in sequence. But again, I can always adjust the icons. I can change the order, which mostly comes into play for distribution. But again, you can always just do this. Oops. Now, one thing to keep in mind for a ring group, when a call comes in and a group member picks up the phone and they're talking to the customer, right? If another call comes into that ring group, that first person who picked up the call, right, first staff member, they'll hear a beep letting them know, hey, there's a call in the ring group. And it'll keep beeping until another user in the ring group picks up the call, that second call. This is the downside. Extension number, you can add multiple extension numbers to a ring group. Phone numbers, basically you have a phone number go directly into that ring group, so it bypasses your auto attendant or virtual receptionist. And then groups have features. All right, call recording. For a ring group, it's simply that, enabled or not. Ring back, this is essentially hold music until that plays until one of your staff members picks up. The main thing is you want to make sure that that file lasts as long as your total ring duration of the group. So if we go back to right here, that's at 120 seconds. So 2 minutes. I would want to make sure any ringback file I have plays for at least 2 minutes, because it does not automatically loop itself. And again, .wave, .mp3 in mono, etc. Next action, what do you want the system to do if no one picks up the call? You can have it go back to the main menu. You can have it go to a voicemail box. Allow call forward. Basically, this is for your VoIP phone users. If you enable this, that means they can use call forwarding to send calls to their cell phone or landline. And then caller ID prepend. This is, again, for your VoIP phone users. You can add text in front of the caller ID information that shows up on their phone, or numbers. Right. All right, devices. These are all the devices on the account. You can also add devices here. We do not recommend that you add the web phone here or VirtualPBX soft phones through here, since they're not associated with a user at that point. Those you want to do directly on the user devices section. But this is for, like, you have a VoIP phone, you have a bunch of VoIP phones, you're setting up a new office, your IT guy can just add all the phones all at once. He doesn't have to assign it to anyone, because he's like, I don't know where people are sitting or who's sitting where yet. Voicemail boxes, these are all the voicemail boxes on the account. You'll notice that some have users already associated with them, because those are the ones that were created when the user was created. Others were created manually. Basically this interface. And the reason you would create a manual voicemail box would be to make use of with a ring group, or if you're going to make use of ACD queues, you can also use it for that. Oops. Click on the little wrench icon. You can give it a name, voicemail number, a PIN number. For any manual created one, you do need to get a greeting media file associated with it at some point, or you can upload one. Recipients, just add the email address of who you're sending the voicemail to. And then when you go to options, already set up means you already put a greeting on it, for example, and it's ready to go. Acquire PIN. Auto login means it allows you to log in from any VoIP phone. And delete after notifications. Basically, once you have an email address associated with the recipients, you can tell the system to delete the voicemail after it's already sent out that email. The reason you would want to do that is because the system is restricted to 100 voicemails on the account. So if you have it delete after notifications, you don't have to worry about ever hitting that limit. Once you do hit that limit, basically the system says the voicemail box is full, please try again later. Feature codes, these are for use with your VoIP phones. So you have call center, call forward, etc. These are also available on the website, so you don't have to log in to view them all the time. Call logs, this shows your call activity on the account in terms of what's going on. So the green arrow to the right means call coming in. Orange arrow to the left means an outbound call. You can click on a call to get some more information of what happened. And you can click on the little gear icon for technical details. All right, let's go to, so queues. If you add ACD queues to your account, they're $30 per queue per month. Queues are essentially ring groups on steroids, for lack of a better term. You can give it a name, you can give it a phone number or an extension number. Then you've got queue routing strategies, and unfortunately this interface is not letting me work properly here. And when I refer to the interface not working, this is the streaming interface I'm using is not working quite right. However, in terms of routing options, you've got round robin, which is essentially random but will balance out over time. You have most offered, meaning or least offered, least offered. So whichever agents have the least amount of calls offered to them, they'll get the next call that comes into the queue until they balance out. Least calls means the least number of connected calls, right? So like if you have Bob and Mary, Bob has had 20 calls offered to him, Mary has had 10. So under least offers, Mary would start getting the calls until she gets numbers. Now, if Bob's only talked to 2 people, but Mary has spoken to 8 people, and you switch the routing to least calls, then Bob is going to keep getting calls until he has as many connected calls as Mary. And then most idle, that means who's been waiting for the call the longest. Whoever's waiting the longest gets the next call that comes in. Hold treatment, basically you can upload a music file so that you listen while on hold. The queue timeout is how long you're allowing people to wait on hold. I'm not quite sure why it's measured in seconds. Queue call limit, basically how many people you're allowing to wait on hold. If you have it set on 0, there's no limit. Timeout immediately, if empty, basically if you have no agents in the queue, then you can just immediately time out the inbound callers, which means you go into these next 2 steps. Escalation queue means you have a second queue that calls would overflow into. So if you want like a skills-based ranking setup, you can have your T1s in the first queue. If the queue timeout happens, then you can have an escalation queue go to your secondary people. Or you can say, hey, just go to a voicemail box, meaning the queue timeout happens, send the caller to voicemail. Over here in agent behavior, agent recovery time. Basically, after they finish a call, how much time do they have, are they given before the next call is offered to them? So when it says 30 seconds means Mary's off a call, she's got 30 seconds before another call can be offered to her. So she can get a drink of water or sip of water, maybe finish up her notes, whatever. Force away on rejected or missed. If you have this enabled, basically means if an agent misses a call or doesn't pick up, the system will automatically put them in away mode, meaning that agent would need to manually put themselves back in ready mode to get the call. And then agent connect timeout, basically how much time the system tries to connect to an agent before it moves on to the next agent. And you can add a new queue here. An advantage queues also have over ring groups is that staff members can log themselves in and out of the queue, as well as mark themselves available or unavailable by themselves. Whereas in a ring group, you're in the group, and you're always in the group. So your phone's always going to ring whether you're there or not, or on lunch or not. Blacklist, as I said before, this is basically allows you to control which numbers can reach you. So i.e., someone's been calling you and leaving harassing voicemails or just like waste your staff time. You're like, look, I don't want this person to call. They obviously don't listen to us when we tell them not to call. So So you get their caller ID, and you put +1 area code and phone number, and you add them to a list. Here, hold on a minute. So you click on Edit Blacklist. If you don't already have a list, you would click this to add a new list, or you can simply choose a list that you already created and add to it. So you click Save, you go back to Settings, and then you click and drag the list you want to have an effect into the selected column here, and click Update, and now those phone numbers cannot connect to the system. And in fact, all they get is a busy signal. Faxes, so as an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account. You can see what's on the inbound, as well as the outbound, or the email to fax box, and basically see what happened on why a fax didn't get sent out. A thumbs down, you click here in the little eyeball, and it'll give you the reasons. User portal shows the voicemails. So what this tells you is that this my user doesn't delete after notification, because that's why it's still here. Right? If I have delete after notification, this wouldn't be here at all. And then you have the option to play back, or I can download it here. If I click on the little icon here, I can then mark it for deletion. Call history basically shows you your inbound and outbound call history. Right, faxes shows your faxes, but I don't have a fax box. Contact list, this is your user directory and all your groups and ACD queues, etc. If you make use of conferencing, you'll have a conference option here. Now, when you're actually hosting a conference, you have several options. This one here is to add people who are on your account, right? Add other users to the conference. You can lock the conference, i.e. other people can just join. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference. And then on the individual participants, you can mute a particular participant, or you can actually kick a particular participant. Excuse me. And then settings and devices. Again, this allows the user to set up their own call forwarding if they so desire. And then again, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the account. And that is the admin training for Dash. If you have any questions or you want me to go back over a particular feature, just say so in the chat. Otherwise, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, have a wonderful day.